different types of. So there are four main types of connectivity modes are there. One is the import connectivity mode and direct connectivity mode and composite mode and the live mode. The composite mode is nothing but the combination of import as well as direct query. Okay. So this is the one, the import is the widely used, this is the default one when connecting to any data sources. Okay. This connection basically pull the data from the data source and make that data part of our Power BI desktop file itself. Supposing if I load this file, right, sales file into Power BI desktop, and if I store it, this file will become part of my Power BI desktop for the import mode, right, import connectivity mode. And when I connect to the direct query mode, the data will not, again, even the direct query mode, we have two options. Either you can use the import mode or you can use direct connectivity mode. Okay. In the case of import mode, the same principle is applicable. So once you import the table into your Power BI desktop, that data will become part of your Power BI desktop. Okay. And but in the case of direct query, it will not be part of your Power BI desktop. The data will still live in the source system itself. Okay, but only the query will be generated from your Power BI desktop, and then that will be sent to your SQL source system. There the data will there the query will get executed, and the output will be sent back from your SQL server to your Power BI visual also. Okay. Now we will take a look at the import mode in detail. So the import is the widely used, and this is the default, the connection mode for all the data sets. It is also referred to as cached data. We used to say cached data, and the import mode, the Power BI extract the data from the data source and load the data inside of the Power BI itself. End of the day, the data sits inside the Power BI desktop. Okay, since the data is available inside the Power BI, it is super fast because of the in-memory querying and being columnar and all. Okay, since the data is available locally, that's all. The performance will be fast. This is simple common sense. For example, you have two server. You have a Power BI server and you have SQL server. Okay, and if you have to go and get the data from, you send the request to the data to this one and then get the data back from SQL. So there is a a time lag here, right? So whereas if the data is available locally here, it is fine. It will be faster. Okay, it's something like if the food is available inside your house, you can have it. Otherwise, you need to order it till they deliver it. You have to wait. The same logic here. Okay, it's principle. Okay, in the case of write report performance, it will be faster because of in memory. Whenever you work with the import connectivity mode because of the in memory querying. Okay, and also it does the compression. We have something called X velocity. I discussed about X velocity. Anyhow, I will repeat that. X velocity is the workhorse behind the Power BI. So behind the scene, what it does is whenever you use the import mode, what it does is it convert your tabular data into columnar database. Number one, okay, tabular to columnar. And number two is it does some kind of encoding. Number three, it does the compression. At this moment, you can ignore point one and point two because it requires detailed explanation. At the time of DAX, when I start the DAX topic, we will discuss about this in detail. At this moment, you just think, even in the case of compression, different techniques are available. Okay, and that is what the encoding. Okay, and that one we'll discuss it in the later part. At this moment, you just think there is something called XVeloz. It's a piece of software that is part and parcel of the Power BI desktop. What it does is when you use the import mode behind the scene, it does the three tasks. Okay, and importantly, at this moment, you remember compression. It compresses your input data and then load the compressed data into memory. For example, your file size is 1 GB. You see your file size is 1 GB. Okay, and when you import into Power BI, The Power BI file, the Power BI will, after compression, right, this file size will become 10 MB. So it reduces the original file size 10 times. Okay, it reduces the file size 10 times. So instead of 1 GB, it reduces to 10 MB. So the file size is become very small because of the compression done by X velocity. And then if you load the compressed value into the memory, it will not take much space in the memory. That is the idea of this one. Okay, that is what the X velocity is doing it. This X velocity works for import mode. Okay, and you can ask the another advantage with import mode is you can use all DAX functions. You know what is DAX? Data Analytic Expression. As part of DAX, a lot of built-in functions are available. Hence, you don't have to write your own functions to solve the to implement any business logic or to perform advanced analytics. You don't have to write any custom function. A lot of built-in functions are available. With that itself, you can simply by passing the arguments to it, you can perform analytics, basic analytics ranging. You can perform analytics ranging from basic to advanced level. But one disadvantage with import mode is you need to refresh your data frequently. Okay, you need to, that is based on your use case or requirement. Okay, so for daily summary report, on a daily basis, you know, to refresh the data from, for example, you have the data available in your Excel file, or it is available in your SQL server. Since you have used the import mode, the day when you imported the data, so up to that, the data will be available in your Power BI desktop. Okay, and later point in time, if you, for example, you have, first September to let's 10th September. Let's say in this table, a specific table as 1st September to 10th September data has in it. Right, on 10th September, what you do every month 10th, you do the incremental data refresh. Okay, what it is every month September 10th, every month 10th, you extract the data from first of the month to till the 10th day, all the data, first 10 days. Okay, and then what you do is you load it into Power BI desktop. Okay, it's the first time you loaded the data from 1st September to that file as data for 1st September to 10th September. So afterwards, let's currently now we are in, let's assume that we are in 20th September. Okay, since you have loaded the data on 10th September, it contains 1st September to till 10th September, the data only in it. Okay, and now we are in 20th September. Okay, you wanted to see the last 20 days sales performance. In that case, from 10th 11th September to 20th September data, you need to load it because it is a import mode, right? So up to this only you load it. Okay, but the rest of the data how Power BI will know. Since 11th September to 20th September, you need to load the data. Okay, but if you open the Power BI desktop, look here, and if you click on the refresh, it will work. Okay, it will go and pick up from the Excel file or SQL server, and then it will refresh your report until 20th. But what will happen is it will load the entire data, 1st September to 20th September. But you just assume that up to 1st to 10th September to load this one itself, this file or table, to load this data itself, it took 8 hours time. Okay, but again for this remaining 10 days, approximately another, this hypothetically another 8 hours. But if you click on the refresh button here, it will load everything from the start of the month to till date, till 20th. So 8 plus 8, 16 hours are required to load the data again. So why to load this data again, reload the data, this one. So that is where you have something on incremental data refresh. You have something on incremental data refresh. What we have here is this one. This one is The full refresh. This is full refresh. It will load everything from the beginning, but we don't want that to do. We don't want to do it that way. We wanted to load from from the last day when we loaded, right? So we want to load it from the day when we last loaded, right? So here what will happen is 11th September, right, to 20th September, we wanted to load only this data. Hence, I'm going to save 8 hours time. Otherwise, what will happen if I click on refresh, it will take 16 hours. Okay. So if this is for one job, it is fine. Let's say you have 200 reports to be generated. For each report, if if it takes, if it takes to load, let's, zero point 0.3 billion records. Let's assume that 20 days put together 0.4 billion records. 20 reports into zero point 0.4, it'll consume a lot of memory and IO. The hard disk, it has to go and read the data, and it has to use the memory resources, unless it will cause performance bottleneck. So what we do is smartly, we refresh the data from the date, when we loaded in the last time. Okay. So, or the one day after the day when we loaded last time till date, we loaded, which means 11th September to 20th September, just 8 hours only it will take. Okay. So when it comes to the free version of the Power BI, and including Pro, right? So the total number of refreshes per day, you can do only 8. If you have 20 jobs, right, you cannot do. Or some cases, what will happen, hourly, every 1 hour, you do the data refresh. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So using import mode, what you need to remember is when it come to refresh, data refresh. Okay. So you need to do data refresh. You need to refresh your data. That is one disadvantage. That is one disadvantage of using import mode. You need to refresh the data. Rather, if you connect to the source system directly, you don't have to do anything. Okay, you don't have to schedule refresh, because it is directly querying the source system data. That's all. You are not loading the source system data locally. Okay, so that is the difference here. The import mode, you need to schedule the incremental data refresh. Where will I schedule the incremental refresh? In the Power BI desktop itself we can do it. That we will see it later. And also you can configure it in your Power BI cloud service. That and all we will see it, see it later. Okay, it's too early to talk about this. At this moment, you just remember one disadvantage with the import mode is you need to refresh the data. Okay, and also the limitation. Okay, and this limitation might change. Okay, but you just keep that in mind. So 8 refreshes only you can do with the free version and this one. But with the premium licensing, 40 plus refreshes you can do. 40 plus refreshes, I don't remember exact number. 40 plus refreshes you can do it per day. Okay. And the advantages, yeah, you can use all the DAX function. And the other thing is, it is not possible to switch back from import to direct. Once you import the data, since the data gets loaded into Power BI desktop, you cannot convert it back to direct query mode. Okay, but you can do it other way around. You can switch back from direct to import mode. These are the points. If you remember it, that is more than sufficient, because they might ask you these questions. Okay, the other limitation with the not only the the limitation with the free account, right? The refreshes, number of refreshes, but also per file, it can store only maximum 8 GB. If anything, more, sorry, gig. Okay, if anything goes more than 1 gig, query timed out. You will get some kind of error message. It will not work. Okay, that is one limitation in the case of free version. By default, when you sign up with the Power BI cloud service, you will get in total 10 GB space. You can load up to 10 GB, but each file size should be 1 GB. It should not exceed more than 1 GB. Even with the Pro license, this is the limitations. But when you go for Power BI Premium, it allow you to up to 50 GB of 50 GB size of 1 second. 50 GB size of the model loaded in Power BI. Okay. So without premium, maximum file size you can have is 1 GB. That's all. Okay. File size limitation is 1 GB per file, and data refresh you can do 8 only per day. But in the interview, if they ask you, tell them that your company is using premium mode. Don't ever tell they are using free or pro license, because enterprise level they'll be using the premium license because the volume of the data is very high. Okay, the next one is the direct query mode. It is a direct connection to the source. Okay, it is a direct connection to the source. Mm, it is an alternative to our import mode. Right? In this connection type, the data will not be stored in your model or Power BI desktop because it's a direct connection to our data source. Okay, that is why we call it direct query mode. And Power BI will query the data from data source every time. Okay, if the data is available in the source system itself, how will my Power BI visuals can get the data? In that case, Power BI has to generate the query, and then it should send that query back to your source system every time. But in the case of direct query mode, it will store the metadata of your tables. What is metadata of your tables? Table names, column names, and then relationship. It has to import the structure, just table name, column, and relationship also it has to import. These are just a structure only, it will get imported in your Power BI desktop. And the advantage is it will take less storage because you are importing only the table name, column name, and the relationship. That's all. You are not importing the data. Hence, it doesn't require much storage. And model doesn't require scheduled data refresh because you are querying directly from the source system. Right? The source system SQL server, let's say list of, for example, source system, your source system is SQL server, and the SQL server table, the data are being written every now and then. Okay, so hence you don't require any refresh. The disadvantage is in the case of direct query mode, you cannot use all the DAX functions. There are some DAX functions you cannot use it, and limited Power Query operations. Even in the case of data transformation, when you go to the Power Query editor, you cannot do all kind of data cleaning, data transformation. You cannot do everything. Okay, there are some limitations, and the direct query is possible for few data sources only. This is another disorder. Not all type of data source it supports. Okay, it supports only few. Okay, now you understood the advantages and disadvantages. They will ask you these questions for sure. So what is direct query mode? What is the advantage? What is the disadvantage? When did you use direct query mode? When did you use import mode? They will ask you. And I will just go to the Power BI desktop and I will show you how to connect to the direct query mode. Already we have seen it, but anyhow, I will show you now. SQL Server. And I just, okay, I just remember vaguely my. So you have import. Import, you know very well. I'm going to select the direct query mode. Look here, by default, the connection mode is import. I just click on direct query mode and I click on OK. 8K BBDN3, yes. Fine. 8K BBDN3 says we could not authenticate the credentials for something wrong here. Stop. Let me go back here. And okay, you need to specify this one. Or most of the time, I make this mistake. SQL Express. And see, today I spoke to my other student. I just pass it. I just So hence, there is not much. Probably if what I'll try to show you, if possible, how to connect to SQL, Azure SQL database later point in time. The first you understand the funda, that is enough. Okay, fine. We will see, if I connect it, what is happening. Use your Windows screen to access, use my current credentials. Okay. Okay, sorry. This must be the forward slash, not backward slash. For making a small mistake also, right, cause problem. But don't panic. Now it got connected, and it shows all the tables that are available as part of your SQL Server sales database. Here, what I do is I just select the sales fact table. Okay, and the data preview window, we can see that the few records here, not the entire table data. The preview window, just we see the data, everything. We'll take a cursory look at it. Okay, what columns are there, what data types are there. Fine. Next, I hit the load button. The data get loaded now. So you will get something like the warning message. Okay, a potential security risk. Click on OK. Ignore this one. Good. Now the sales fact table got structure got loaded here. Metadata got loaded because we have connected using the direct mode. So hence only the structure will get loaded here. Table name, column name. And if I go to the model view, I can see that the sales fact table, right? So here, so in the table, we can see all the table, columns here, and the same table, right? So whatever you have seen it here, the same table, we are seeing it in the model view. In the model view, we can see that on top of this table, there is a blue colored line, which means this table we have imported with direct connectivity mode, or loaded with direct connectivity mode. And another thing is, if you go to the data view to see the data, when you select the sales fact table, you will not find anything. This table uses direct query and cannot be shown. Okay, you cannot see the data because the data lives in the SQL server. Okay, it lives there. Okay, and but you can see the table structure here, and you can create a visual, and the visual, if you drag and drop, it will show the data here. Okay, it'll so the data will get populated here, but when you drop the columns into this visual, it will query your source SQL server, and then the source SQL server will send the data back to your visual. The request will send directly to that. Got it? So now the thing is, can I do the data transformation? Can I transform the data of my SQL server source table? In this case, it is the sales fact table because I use the direct connectivity mode. And I just click on this. Yes, you can see the data here. In the case of Power Query Editor, you can do that because as part of the disadvantages, we discussed it here. The direct query mode. Disadvantage is limited Power Query operations. So you can, unless you see the data, how can you do the transformations, right? Hence, the data are visible here. You can do the data transformations, whatever that you wanted. Okay, but here you cannot add an index, and you cannot merge the columns. If you try to merge the column, it will not work. And for example, if you want to change some data type, that is possible, and I just change it to some text. It got converted text editor type. Okay, and if you keep the cursor, just beneath the applied steps, right? We have three steps are there. These are the default steps. These steps were carried out by Power Query Editor. We don't have to do anything for that. We don't have to do anything with the these two steps. This by default, these two steps were generated by the Power Query Editor. The only thing is this step, all right, we have done it. We just change the data type. You right click on it by keeping the cursor over this step, and you can see the view native query. When you click on it, you can see the query for this table. So what we can understand from this is the Power Query Editor itself generates the query. Okay. And this query will be sent directly to your SQL server, and this query will get executed on your SQL server's database. The output of this query will be sent back to your Power Query Editor. Okay, the reason why we have use the direct connectivity mode to pull the data from Salesforce. The sales fact table has huge volume of data in it. Okay, hence the import mode is not the best option. That is the reason why we use direct connectivity mode. But in the direct connectivity mode, there are some limitations. You cannot use all the DAX functions. You cannot perform the complex data transformation. If the situation demands, or if there is a use case where you need to perform complex transformation, then don't do anything in Power Query Editor. Simply you go to SQL Server and use create some view. In that view, what it is, for example, you want to join 3 or 4 tables. You do it everything, joining the 3 or 4 tables in the SQL Server itself, and then what it is, you change or merge everything, right? Column, whatever the transformation you want to do it, you try to do it everything SQL query itself, and then create a view. And when you query you import that query into your Power BI desktop, or you can connect to that view who's in the direct connectivity mode, because the already you did some kind of data transformation, everything, as part of the view. The process data, you can get it here. You don't have to do anything. Okay, and when it comes to SQL Server, especially when you use direct connectivity mode, most of the time we work with SQL Server itself because of the limitations, everything. Okay, the data transformation related, right? So limitations, we do it everything. Some cases, yes, the stored procedure has to be written. What is stored procedure? The stored procedure, what we do is we put, the for loop, everything. Okay, and then in case you want to iterate row by row, and you want to do some kind of data transformation based on iterating to each and every row, and combining multiple tables, and any complex thing, you can use it there in the stored procedure. Okay, either stored procedure, or we can use a view or table view, or we write some complex query. That query itself, you can execute it here. Okay, for example, in this case, I just close and apply. So in the Power Query Editor, you can see the data, though you connected in the direct connection mode. But in the data view, you cannot see the data. It imports, end of the day, only the table name and the structure of the table. Okay, and then relationship. The next one is okay. It supports the direct connectivity mode is supported. It supports only specific data sources, like these are the data sources it supports. And if you want to take a look at the supported direct connectivity mode of the source system, right? You can go to this site. This is a Microsoft site. You can find the authentic information here, because every new version they are introducing new feature. They are lifting any limitations in the new versions, right? You need to keep yours, in order to keep yourself up to date, you need to go and check the blogs of Microsoft, so that you will get to know what features they introduce in which version. And these are the database it supported source systems, the direct connectivity, but MySQL is not supported. You cannot connect with MySQL server in direct connectivity mode. Okay, fine. Next one is the composite mode. Okay, the composite mode is a combination of import as well as direct mode. For example, I just show you one more thing. I just connect to the SQL server again. And I'm going to use import mode now. Click on OK. Again, let's connect. Okay, connect. Again, I made a mistake here. One second. I'm not good in. This is the thing, right? Yeah, forward slash SQL Express spelling mistake. All right, so it will connect now. You need, this is another disadvantage, okay, to my knowledge. Okay, so see what they can do, right? When we select the tables, that time it can ask, you want this table to be done on import mode or something. So desktop 8K BBD and 3, is this one or is this one? I have used this one, right? One second, let me. Yeah, same. Sorry, yeah, I made the same mistake. Yeah, now it got connected. Look here, I just use dim location and dim customer and dim product. These tables I will import it. I just hit the OK button, because these tables, according to my business, let's think that way, right? I have it doesn't have too much of data in it. Now the question is, when can I go for a direct mode? When can I go for import mode? So you can use import or direct mode for SQL Server also. But if the volume of the data is very high, then you can go for direct query mode. For those tables, the volume of the data is less. See, usually the category dimension table, it will not have much data in it. Okay. And the location also, it will not have much data. In that case, you can go for import mode. You can load the data into your Power BI desktop. So rarely these tables will undergo changes. Okay. In that time, again, you need to refresh it. That's all. Rarely you do the data refresh. That's it. And dim product and customer, these two tables, we need to load it. Uh, we used to use the direct connectivity more for customer as well as dim product, because these two tables are also equally very huge file, huge data in it. Look here, here the import mode, whatever the tables I have used, dim product and category got linked, and here the dim customer is not linked with my sales fact. What I will do is I'll just remove this one. Okay, you just select this and press del in your keyboard and it will ask. What I will do is I'll use the direct connectivity mode for customer. Yeah, I'm using the direct mode, query mode. And here I use the dim customer and hit the load. In this case, it is not creating the relationship directly. We need to do it. So though, the document says many to one single, okay. Though the document says it imports the table name and relationship as part of the metadata, in the case of direct connectivity mode, right? It is not, doing the relationship here. Okay, this is the one I will leave it to you. You can try this one. Okay, you have all the data sets, right? You can try this one and check and let me know. And here in this case, you need to connect these two tables, product table and this one. And as part of data model, we'll discuss about that. Okay, so now I'll just switch back to my the PowerPoint, and here the composite mode. Here we have the combination of direct mode, import mode, as well as we have the Excel file data here. Okay, when you work with import direct connectivity mode, you can you can have a mix of different types of files. Remember this. This is called composite mode. It is also called a dual mode or composite mode. Both of them are same. Okay, you can even pull the data from your website and social Twitter, all the things you can do it. Even CRM, ERP, everything can connect it. Okay, and data flow also. Data flow, I'll explain you later. Okay, don't worry. And at this moment, you just think the decomposite model is the combination of direct and import mode. That's it. And the next one is the live connection mode. So what is a live connection? It is similar to our direct query because the data will reside in your source system itself. In the case of live connection, it will not store data locally in your Power BI desktop when you use live mode. So more or less same as direct query. Okay, direct connection mode. Okay, but there is a difference is there between the direct as well as the live connection. The live connection, the difference is with respect to the source system. It works only with the source system. SQL Server analysis services table are and multi-dimensional and Power BI service. Because these data sources are modeling engine themselves. Okay, and in this case, the Power BI will connect to these sources and fetch only the model metadata like a measure name, attribute names, and relationship. Okay. And the next thing is the advantages. No size limitation because you are not pulling the data. The data live wherever it is, and you can perform more DAX transformations as opposed to your direct query mode. Okay, so it is better than your direct query mode. And the next disadvantage is no power query. So you cannot do data transformation. You cannot make any data model changes. You cannot combine direct import mode along with sorry, you cannot combine different data sources. You cannot have a mix of multiple sources. Once you connect with live mode, you can work only with only one source, only one type of file. You cannot import any other data file. Okay, I'll just give you a demo for this one. I just save this as, let me open another Power BI desktop. So here I don't have the SQL Server, SSCS and Tabular and multi-dimensional. Earlier I installed my system, somehow it got crashed. Probably I will show you a demo later point in time. Okay. And at this moment, we will take a look at Power BI service, how to establish a live connection with the Power BI service, the cloud service. I have to open another Power BI desktop. And here I just close this one. Yeah. Here we have something called Power BI data sets. Power BI data sets. Okay. And so what is Power BI data sets? First, let us understand the Power BI data sets using which, I can show you the live connection. Okay. The Power BI data set files or Power BI desktop files, it have a, specific structure. So these connections, Power BI dataset connections are pre-packaged one. You don't have to use the get data to load the data. Everything has been done by someone else. Let's say you have a report file that has already been published on cloud. When you publish a report, along with that, the data file will also get published on the cloud by default or implicitly. Okay, all you need to do is hit the publish button. For example, in your report file, look here, this is the thing, right? Where is that? So you have something called publish icon here. Publish button. So once you create your reports or like the charts and everything, and then if you publish, if you hit this button, publish, right? It will publish your report to your Power BI cloud. Once the report gets published, the data that belong to this file will also get published on the cloud automatically. Got it? So, okay. The next thing is, right, let's say you published one report. So in that report, what you did, let's say hypothetically, you loaded 10 different tables and, 10 different dimension tables and 2 fact tables, and you did data model design, everything. And then you have published on cloud. Now, what I say is to all my team members, guys, to work on this project, you need the whatever the tables that you needed, those are all available in the cloud. The report file which I submitted or published there, it has everything in it. All you need to just use the Power BI dataset connection option from your Power BI desktop, and then you connect it there. That's all. So in that case, let's say you are part of my team and you do not know the connection, the source system, SQL server name, or the port number or database. You don't have to be aware of all the things. You don't have to have the the connection details. You don't have the pain of click on the get data and load each and every file table. Okay, let's say you have 12 tables or 17 tables are there. 17 times you don't have to hit this button to load the tables. Everything as preloaded, the connection string, everything mentioned there. Simply connect to the cloud file, and then you create your report for the whatever the data that you need. You go and pick up there and then create the visuals. That's all. Create the reports. So the connection settings, the path of your file or database location, right? You don't have to be aware of it. And other thing is, it is easier to share. Once you create a report and publish it on cloud, and using Power BI desktop, so Power BI data source, right? This option, you can share it with your team members. It is really useful for new report designers And those are not familiar with the data sources that are available. Okay, now I just go ahead and click on the get data and Power BI data sets. I just click on it. So in this case, I just select EXD retail report. This is a report I already published it. And then look here. Okay, calendar sales table. So these two tables were part of that report. It is available on cloud. See, the moment when I hit this, uh, right? So all the other connectors got disabled. It supports only a single data source. Which one? The live connection. It supports a single data source. You cannot load any other source like Excel or text CSV file. You cannot do that. You cannot connect to more than one source. That's it. Okay. And also, if you see on the left side here, you don't have the data view icon itself. Okay, and you have the data model view is possible. You can go and check what tables are there, what relationships are there. And if you see here, the model relationship icon got disabled. And other thing is, if you click on transform data, you can see that you cannot open the Power Query editor. You cannot do any data transformation. You cannot you cannot create any model here. For example, you wanted to include another file. First of all, you are not allowed to any other import or load any file along with this. Whatever is there, you can simply use it. That's all. And if you need anything, you can contact the author. Let's I am the author for this one. I know data modeling and how to create the relationship, what type of relationship I should create between which table, all the things I know. Okay, I created it, everything, and then I published on. If you need any additional details, you tell me, I will include it, and I'll check whether you really need the table. If you need it, I'll include it and then publish it again. But once I publish it, you need to use the PBDSO so that there is a centralized there is a control here, a better control. If I allow you to edit the data model mistakenly, if you go and delete it, right? Look here, you cannot modify, you cannot do anything here. Okay, and the next one is, that's all. You are all set, and now you can go ahead and create the visuals. You cannot do any data. If you want to do any data, everything you do it in that file so that there will not be any duplicated effort. For example, I cleaned my sales underscore W0 file. In my table, in my team, 4 other members are also using the same file. In that case, what will happen is, even each file, each people, right? They take this file and they do that same data transformation. Once I do the data transformation centrally, and once I do the data model design, everything, if I publish it, that's it. You simply pull the data here. Sorry, you can simply pull the metadata. Yeah, pull the metadata and simply create the visuals. That's it. I just not yeah. See, this one is from cloud, not from my local system. And here I can see the profit. If you want to see the profit, I can see the profit by category. You can see it here. And if I see here, I cannot do anything. But data source settings, when you click on it, look here, my data source is not from local folder. It is from cloud service. So this is what PBADS. Hope you understood what is live connection. But in the case of live connection, you can do the DAX transformations compared to direct query mode. Here also there are some limitations, but you can use not much limitations when it comes to using the DAX functions. And there is no size limitation because we are directly connecting there. Disadvantage is no power. You cannot do data transformation. You cannot combine more than one data source. Only one data source is allowed. That's it. Which one? The PBI DS. That's all. So the same thing is applicable for your SQL Server Analytics service. Now the question is, which one is better? whether direct query connection or live connection or import mode. Of all this, which one is faster? Import is the winner. Okay, always import is the winner. But we cannot use import mode for for all the situations. If the data volume is very high, then we have to go for direct query mode. Okay. If the data volume is reasonably okay, then you can go for import, because behind the scene you have something called X velocity engine. That is the one does the compression, all the things. Hence, the import mode is much faster. But if the volume of the data is very high, better you can go for direct query mode. Okay, and okay, the live connection is direct connection to your analytical services. Direct query is also direct connection to data sources. Both of them are more or less same, but live connection is meant for SSAS, PBA service. That's all. With direct query, you can still configure relationship, but here you cannot do any. Did you see that in the direct query? You remember, I connected with the sales fact and the customer table, and then I was able to create the relationship. Whereas in the case of live connection, you have no relationship tab, but in the older version, in the new version, tab is there, but you cannot create the relationship, you cannot modify, you cannot do anything there. So of all the three, import is best, but if the volume of data is very high, then you can go for direct query. But compared to direct query in live mode is the winner. It is much faster than your direct query. So both of them, in both the cases, we are connecting directly to the data source. Then why live mode is faster? Because in this case, for example, take for example, in the case of SSAS and all analytical services, they create some model there itself. Then that model data will get cached in memory. Already the data got cached in memory in the case of live mode. Hence, when you use the live mode, the performance will be much faster. Whereas in the case of direct query, there is no assurance because we are connecting to the database tables, and the table data are stored in the disk, right? In that case, right, we cannot say, but still the tables can be cached in memory. But compared to this one, by default, it goes and leverages the in-memory thing from the source system itself. But live mode is still slower than your import mode. This is the one you need to remember it. Okay. That's it. Now there will be questions. Which storage mode leaves the data at the source, data source? Which one? What is the answer for this? Except Abhinaya. So others, which storage mode? Both live as well as direct query mode. Okay. And you are creating a Power BI report with data from Azure Analysis Services Cube. So this is your live connection, right? Connect live. And this one we will see it later. And another important concept is query folding. As I have shown you earlier, see, we have something called the query folding concept. In this concept, right, what happens is, I have shown you, right, when we connect with direct query mode, what happens is the data lives in your SQL server itself, right? So what there is something called query folding feature in Power BI. This is supported only for the specific sources. Okay, and like I said, the MySQL server, it is not supported. And for all the databases which you use the direct mode, right? So the query folding is supported. In this case, what happens is the Power BI, the Power Query Editor, pushing the data transformations or the task back to your database. Okay, it generates basically the mashup engine. The Power Query Editor has something called mashup engine. It is also called as a mashup engine or M language. For example, I wanted to, the change the data type of a column, and then what happens is, and when I create a visual, and if I use those columns, it will generate the query, and then it will send the query So the first step will send the query to your SQL server, and then the query will get executed here. The output of this query will be sent back to your Power BI desktop or your visuals. So the Power Query will automatically execute the query folding if the source is a database. Okay. The most of the relational database are included, right? So it includes the open data source also. But I never tried with the open data source, and SSAS and Google Analytics also it works. All right. So once you perform a step, right, that cannot be folded because query folding starts for the rest of the query. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is let me let it open here. I just close this one. For example, if this is direct, no, okay, I close that one. Okay, this is available, right? Very good. Okay, so here, if I go here, the sales fact table and the customer dimension, these two are what? These two are connected with, we have used the direct mode, right? So direct connection mode to our SQL server. Instead of using it like this, let's say I have written a SQL query. Select customer name, comma, the sales amount from dim customer, comma, sales fact, where dim customer dot cust ID is equal to sales fact dot customer ID. If I write a query on my own, right, it doesn't require any steps in this Power Query editor. Okay. Once you perform a step, this cannot be folded because already I have written a query, and it will not, you cannot perform any further steps in the Power Query editor. I have written my SQL query itself. Okay, in that case, look here, the sales fact. So for this, I have written a SQL query, okay, by joining these two tables, sales fact and customer table. In that case, instead of loading these two tables separately, I have written a query, and you can call the query also here. Look here if you go to the get data, and when you click on the SQL server, you have something called advanced option here. Apart from direct and import, okay, and you have something called advanced options, okay, and here you can specify the SQL query itself. And then when you click on OK, what will happen is, you are using the direct query mode, and then you specify the database, right? This query will get executed in your in your SQL server itself. But once you write the SQL query by joining to more than one table, right? Whether it's one or more than one table, once you use a direct query here, you cannot fold it, right? So you cannot, the folding will not happen. The query folding will not happen by default. But by default, the Power Query editor will automatically execute the query folding. In what situation? If for that, the prerequisite is your source system should be a database. Okay, and that's all. Okay. That is what query folding is all about. Okay, this is one of the excellent feature that is available here, but still a lot of limitations are there with query folding. Okay, if you do complex data transformation or intermediate moderate complex data transformation, even with that it is not getting enabled, it is getting disabled. So for example, if I go here, when I right click on it, you can see the native query. That means the query folding is working as of now. If I join these two columns, let's say if I do something called merge columns and use some colon and merge, something like that. If I do it, okay, it got merged. And when I right click on it here, but still it is working fine. Yeah, good. Look here. So here in this case, it is using all the customer ID, all the things, right? It is combining all the things. Okay, it is doing that job, combining the two columns. And for example, if I try to add a column, index column, and I want to select this one. Look here, when you try to add an index, this step results in a query that is not supported in direct query mode. And when you keep the cursor over here and right click on it, look here, the view native query got disabled. You cannot add an index. This is one of the limitations. In the interview, they'll ask you when, what are the limitations with query folding. If you add an index, it will not work. Okay, and if you try to create a columns of different tables, then it is a problem. It will not work. Running complex DAX functions, it will not work. Okay, and changing the data type of a column. So that is working in the latest version. Okay, and I just undo this. I try to convert this as, this is the one works here. Okay, and if I right click on it, and media query is still working here. Yeah, it's still working. Okay, fine. But in the older version, if you change the data type of a column, it will not work. The query folding, which means if you wanted to know, for what kind of scenario it works, what kind of scenario it is not working, you just for each step, let's say you performed one step, you change the data type and go and right click on yes. You can see view native query. That means SQL, the query folding is working. And if you want to add a index here, this is another new step. Okay, for this step, right click on it, you see this got disabled. That means the query folding now got disabled. It is not working. Okay, and these are the limitations. And again, if you merge and append columns of different tables with different sources, in that case also there is a limitations here. Complex DAX functions, you cannot use it. That kind of situation, query folding is not enabled. Okay, but this is executed automatically behind the scene. You don't have to you don't have to specify anywhere, or you don't have to choose any option. There is no option available to activate the query folding. It is happening automatically behind the scene. Okay, which storage mode, this I already discussed. This is the direct query. And which technology improves performance by generating a single query statement to retrieve and transform source data? Improves performance by generating a SQL query to retrieve and transform source data. This is what query folding. Okay, next, this I am going to, we'll discuss it later. Okay, now what we will do is we'll take a look at the transpose and pivoting and unpivoting. This is another good feature that is available as part of our Power Query Editor.